time, we're going to stand, Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, so we're
Madam President, I move to approve the agenda as stated.
Second.
favor. Aye. That authority. All right, so we are going on to like to acknowledge that the Legacy Foundation Sign Ranger did on our behalf. Success of the mill. So, thank you, Mr. Kamsi, engaging in conversations. Long process, but successful. Thank you, Chris and Jenny Shell, Nine Rangers. Thank you to our own Kim Noyes for working staff wherever and whenever you were needed. So let's give them all a round of applause. So with that being said, we want you to come up because we want to take pictures and we have some thank yous for. Great. We're moving on. Item 5, meeting with the board. We're at 5.1.
Yes, I'm with. They have a PowerPoint. Okay. All right, well, while they get that pulled up, I just wanted to introduce myself. Thank you so much for having me here today. My name is Jamie Estemacher. I'm an audit partner at Plant Moran. I serve as the district's lead engagement auditor, and I'm here to present the exciting results of the audit for June 30th, 2024. So we did meet prior to this last week with Michelle, the superintendent, Corey, and Sandra to kind of go over in deep depth of the results. In front of you, there are three deliverables, or you have seen three deliverables in your board packet, which would include the audited financial statements, which is the district's basic financial statements, the single audit, which is required to be performed because the district expends more than $750,000. I can. Okay, so the single audit, which is the federal compliance audit, because the district receives more than $750,000 in federal expenditures. So we're required to do that audit on the federal funds that the district has. And then there's some required communication that is done with the board. So we had that communication with Michelle and team last week. So the PowerPoint for my discussions are the main focus. We're going to focus on the general fund for part of this. But if in your packet and you've gone through the financial statements, you have any questions, please just let me know. So first, some highlights related to the audit results. So in relation to the basic audit, if there was an unmodified or essentially a clean opinion, that is the highest level of an opinion that we can provide as your CPA firm. That means that there was a clean audit with minimal issues or findings that were identified, as well as the audit was and the financial statements are in conformity with all the requirements under governmental and generally accepted accounting and auditing standards. The audit was performed using a hybrid remote or on-site model. The report date for the audit was December 2nd. We did identify one item that was related to some items that kind of fell into last year and just didn't make it through the June 30th year end, as it related to some bank reconciliations. But the district has already corrected that and is moving forward as it relates to those internal controls and performing those bank reconciliations. When we look at our federal funds, we tested two federal programs, which would be the ESSER funds that the district received, as well as the IDEA funds. So the IDEA is your special ed money. Happy to report also there, no findings noted in the current year. And we did issue an unmodified opinion on both the internal control piece of that as well as the compliance piece. So before I get into the other highlights of the general fund, I just wanted to give a big thank you to Sandra and Corey and their entire team. This audit is a pretty heavy lift, and we had lots of, we were asking for lots of requests, and it went on for a couple months. So we started in July and we wrapped up in December. So it's quite a process, and they've been amazing. And the district should be really proud of these results and all the things that are included in the reports. The financial statements are the responsibility of management, and Sandra and Corey take full ownership of that. And it's Plant Moran's responsibility to render an opinion on the financial statements. And then the audit was completed in accordance with generally accepted auditing and accounting standards in the United States. So when we start taking a look at the general fund assets, so the district ended the year with total assets of about $51.7 million. This is an increase from prior year of about approximately $7 million. A significant portion of those assets rest in the pooled cash and investments. And as you will see in note 4 of the financial statements, the investments are focused really in local government investment pools. Receivable amounts are also on the balance sheet, and those include the property taxes, amounts due from the county treasurer, leases, and other governments. And then the remaining portion that makes up the balance sheet for the general fund is the prepaids and the other assets. So really the general fund is obviously the fund that the district uses to manage most of its day-to-day operations. So that's kind of where we are focused on here. At June 30th, total liabilities for this fund is approximately $14.2 million. So this is up about 32.7% or 3.5 million from the prior year. A significant portion of this amount is related to the accrued compensation of the district. So really that money, that accrued compensation is primarily for the teachers' salaries and benefits for the month of July. It's based on how the contract is ran, as well as the accounting standards that require that benefit to be recorded at June 30th. And then also included in this amount would be any other classified staff for the district. There's a small amount of unearned revenue, and then rounding out the district's balance sheet is the general accounts payable. So taking a look next at the designated grants purpose fund. So we also kind of look at that fund as we do a lot of testing on that fund because that's where you hold all your state and federal grants. Starting with the assets for this, ended the year at approximately 22.2 million. This is an increase of about 11.4 million. This balance is made up of intergovernmental receivables for grant funding, and then your cash and investments. When we move over to the liabilities, at June 30th, that total liability is also approximately 22.2 million. So really at the end, we got it. At the end of the day, that fund's net balance is zero. So that's why the assets equal the liabilities. That's the right slide right there. Thank you. A significant portion of this amount is related to AP, as well as the accrued compensation for those employees that would be charged to that grant fund. In addition, timing differences relate to some unearned revenue of about $3.4 million and amounts due to other funds of about $2.8 million. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so now you can see, not just me shouting numbers at you. Okay, so when we take a look at the income statement, so below we break up the district's revenue stream by type to help analyze it, really breaking it down by the three main categories. So that would be your local funds, which includes your property taxes, as well as any local revenue that the district might receive. State sources would include your state equalization payments, as well as any state grant revenue or categoricals that the district receives. And there's a small amount of federal sources that also run through the general fund. So when we compare that, taking a look at those amounts from 2023 to 2024, there's an increase of approximately $12.4 million, or about 11.4% from the prior year. And where you really see that so really all the amounts essentially stayed the same in terms of percentages, probably about 74% in the state equalization, and then looking at about 24 to 26% in terms of the local sources, but the amount significantly increased, and that just is a product of property taxes going up and the district receiving some additional state funds. All right, when we move over to the designated grants purpose fund and other financing sources, so we typically look at the same outlay here in terms of what is coming through as state sources as well as the federal sources. So this would include your federal revenue that's received and also tested within the single audit, and any local sources that are designated to the grant fund. This fund for the current year increased approximately 1.5 million, or about 5.5%. So next, kind of moving down the income statement, we're going to take a look at the general fund expenditures. So really we break this out. When we typically see an increase in revenue, we're going to see a similar increase in expenses. So when we look at this, we break it out by instruction, support, capital outlay, which would be any kind of, equipment or property or property, essentially vehicles, items that the district might purchase, as well as any items that might be under that capitalization threshold that are coded to the capital outlay, as well as transfers out to other funds, and then others just kind of a small bucket in the end for the ones that don't fit into those four main categories there that I just described. So when we take a look at that, from prior year to current year, expenses increased by approximately 10.1 million, or 9.4%. The spend down of the ESSER funds continues to happen, and as those one-time funds are being spent. And then The transfers out just include money that went to other funds to help support overhead cost or indirect costs that were charged. All right. So then we take a look at the designated grants purpose fund. We can see again, when we see that increase in revenue, we typically see an increase in expenses. Expenses increased by approximately 1.5 million or 5.5%. We break this category out by instruction, support services, capital outlay, community service, and athletics. So really this is a great graph to kind of showcase how that split goes and how that money and really how we look at that split and how that gets designated is based on the state, the CDE chart of accounts that's required for the school districts within Colorado. And then the last slide here, just wanted to spend a moment talking about fund balance. So typically, you know, what we look to see here is steady and equal, and then, you know, continue. We do see a little bit of an increase here. This graph shows that the district's fund balance over the past 5 years, it did have an increase this year of approximately 3.6 million to end the year at about 37.6 million. So again, I think this graph kind of showcases where the fund balance has been over the last few years as, you know, the COVID money has continued to exist and is continuing and is actually winding down here over the next couple years. So I just wanted, those are my prepared comments. I know I went through them a little fast. Sorry for the few slides in the beginning that I had to work through, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. We very much appreciate our partnership with the district and continue to look forward to working with you all.
Before the board asks questions, I would just like to applaud our finance team just to remind you of where we were. Sandra came on in March, mid-March, end of March. Corey came on beginning of May, and welcome to the audit in D2 of things they didn't live through. And so they were able to put this together along with the amazing help from Plant Moran to really look at what we needed to do and to be very transparent of how we move forward. I will not say it's perfect, and neither will finance. We know we have areas we want to focus on, but the fact that we had a team come in, focus on it, get through this audit with a clean opinion with some areas to focus. I'm super excited for what it looks like going forward and super excited for our financial state in the district because now we know better. We have a better idea of how we can better support students with the information. So I asked Jamie, like, have you ever seen a big turnaround like this from, you know, a previous audit to this audit? And she said, this is pretty remarkable of what was done in a year's time to go from one to another. So again, not saying everything's perfect, because I will never say that, but I will say that we are headed in the right direction and we have the right people in the seats.
I'd echo that one.
Again, it's not sure which questions to ask, but I do understand what a clean opinion means at the end of the day. So that's a good thing. And thank you for even just taking the time to kind of step by step to kind of explain what systems put into place or the areas of focus that we should be paying attention to forward. And of course, you know, just re-echoing what has already been stated about the remarkable compressed timeline for bringing us back to compliance. That's phenomenal. Thank you, and yeah, thank you for all you've done. So we are moving on. We have student board representative reports, Aiden Gallegos and Fisher Rollins.
I can start. So we, after the CASB event, me and Dayon were working together to create a survey, and this is like a little project I've been doing over, and Dayon's the creator of the QR code survey for what we're gonna spread to the students, and I am going to be the advertiser that I'm gonna be delivering to my board with all the insights. And some of the questions that are listed on the board is all about student voice, completely anonymous. Is how do you like your school? 1 to 5. How do you like your admins? How do you feel about other students? Are the school rules fair? And some of the open-ended questions is what would improve your school? What would be the best way to advertise your opportunities? What don't you like about the school? What would you do to improve the school spirit? Would you like to attend internships? What businesses closed would you like to intern for? Would you like posters up about opportunities in the school? What could the district do to support your needs? Do you believe the school board and superintendent impact your school? Does your teacher affect your attendance? If your teacher is positive, are you most likely to show up? Would you like more educational events in the district, career fairs, college fairs, etc.? Would you like more cultural events in the district, culture fairs, etc.? And here, put any final thoughts, questions you like to ask to the school board. And that's for one survey. The next survey is, we're doing 2 surveys that I'm going to be delivering to the board and see what we can work with. Is what would you like to engage with the school board? Do you know your school board? Do you know the superintendent? Do you attend sporting events? Are you in internships? Do you know any opportunities that the school offers? Do you see any district advertisement? Does the school board do anything? Does your teacher affect your attendance? If your teacher is positive, are you most likely to show up? It's basically like the second survey is to figure out how you are as a student, if you're attending your school spirit or how you feel. And the other one is more open-ended towards what do you feel like needs to be changed. And those are the 2 surveys I'm working with Dayon Mock, who is a HHS student.
Aiden, before Misha goes, can you explain why we talked about why these surveys might give us better results than Andy's going to present tonight and Scott on our district survey, but sometimes students don't take those as seriously or maybe participate, and why your survey might give us some other information?
So when looking around at Harrison High School, I asked a lot of students saying that they don't want to do like the Healthy Kids survey because they feel like their information is going to be stolen and they're going to get in trouble for what they're going to say. But as a student, there's this so-called thing like the no snitch rule, and I believe you more than an adult. And I just personally believe that as a student board representative, they're going to believe me more than just a random adult coming in. They see me every day walking in the hallways rather than a random adult saying, take the survey, I'm asking you right now.
Okay, and then I have a wider range of updates of just things going on at Sierra this school year. Start off, we have our second year of pre-AP focusing on visuals in every classroom, including our 4 pillars, which are academic conversations, close observation and analysis, evidence-based writing, and higher order questions. These 4 pillars are a part of our gradebook with development of teacher-created rubrics to evaluate these pillars. Then we have also started implementing further implementing our PBIS system, where students can earn points given out by teachers and admin to buy tangible items like candy and food, or sports game tickets, school merch, and prom tickets. And then at the start of the second semester, peer mediation students are going to be beginning to lead restorative circles. And then we also have NHS going from 0 students last year to 32 this year, with yours truly being elected chapter president. And then yesterday we also had our successful Winter Fest, a lot of activities. A lot of people came, and then winter sports, we have Liliana Limon winning her bracket in the first tournament of the year.
Any comments? Board comments?
I just think both of you guys, you guys just impress me every time you stand up here and give good solutions to some of the problems that we don't even know exist just yet. And you bring us those solutions with the issues, and you're not whining about it. You guys behave better than most adults, and I love it. I love it. You guys impress me every day.
Comment on you don't just tell us the what, but there's a why. So this is happening here, the solutions. but I also like how National Honor Society, but from, and why is that so significant? Well, here's the why. Yay. So I like that. Great job, student board.
Yes. I know that we'll get into board report outs later on from the various events that we were able to attend, but I did at this juncture want to make mention of how proud both of you student representatives and how you represented us at CASB. You guys are definitely the leaders. So here's another year, and you guys are out front and tried to tell us when we take pictures and when we should change tables, and we're like, no, I want to hear what you have to say. But congratulations on what you're doing, and you're definitely raised the bar on what our expectations for what. Congratulations to both.
And board, just to share, we have asked the students to share their CASB experience in January intentionally because principals will be here and we want principals to hear the amazing things that they've done this month.
Thank you again. So now we're going to item 5.3. It's the report for school surveys. We have Mr. Scott Weldon, Director of Data, and Mr. Crystal, Director of Curriculum. It's always good to see you.
Good evening, board. Good to see you again. And before we get started completely, I would like to encourage the board and the student reps to share your survey data with the Department of Teaching and Learning and request from your admin what we find about your high schools as well, because I think that full transparency is only good can come from it. So thank you for your work there. We do conduct our annual district survey. This is a climate survey. In your board docs, you'll see 4 different files. So you'll have them in the entirety for parents, for students, and for staff. The one that we're going to direct our attention to is the one that says D2 survey data. It's the infographic that we do to summarize some of the highlights and improvement opportunities that we've identified as things that we know we can work on. So just to give you a bit of a recap of the survey, we give the survey for 4 weeks in the fall semester. The reason we picked that timeline is because we want to have the survey early enough in the school year so we can actually do something about it with the students that we have in front of us. If there is something that we need to have feedback on to act on right away, we want to make sure that we have part of the school year where we can make some changes in the middle of the year to serve our students and our staff better. We do offer the survey in Spanish as well for our students and our parents. And so that is another way to make our survey accessible to a bigger audience. I'm pleased to say that this year we did have more staff complete the survey, up to 85%. And also we had more students complete the survey. And so I do feel that this is a valid measure of the greater voice for our students and our staff. The one area that is an improvement opportunity on just the number of surveys received is our parents. Direct your attention to the parent and guardian responses. You can see the 4-year trend is that the number of student survey replying to us is lower than they've been. And so that is an area that has our attention, and we'll have to strategize a way to get a better turnout from our parents. We haven't narrowed it down to a root cause yet on why that's the case, but it is certainly part of our attention that we are going to be working on going forward. I wanted to start off by talking about our student results, and some of the things that you'll see in the positives is really, you'll notice that the support system is the main theme. Our students are saying that their teachers, their principals, and their families all want them to be a successful student. And that's an important message I think the board needs to hear, in that there is a wide group of support for each of our students, and you can see that in the numbers you have in front of you. In terms of improvement opportunities for our students, we see that there is opportunities to address bullying, that there might be more bullying that occurs than is reported. And also the percentage of our students who feel like they can work out their disagreements without the support of an adult is lower in secondary than it is in elementary school. And so that is something that has our attention. In terms of what we're going to do to address that, in your next steps, you'll see that restorative practices has been a multi-year effort on our department. Just to remind you, restorative practices it encompasses a number of different initiatives. If you recall the Student Success Centers, that is in our secondary schools and Otero, and that is where we have a lot of focus on alternatives to suspension. We have connection circles as a focus area as well. And we have every secondary school have teachers, admin, and mental health staff all trained in what they can do to help out with disagreements and with the opportunities to, I guess, improve behavior. What's new this year is we have a designation code in Infinite Campus, so we can track how many of our schools can report on restorative practices, and rather than being a expulsion or suspension. And so that is something that we'll be able to report through Ms. Sherman's department at a later time. Another thing that I want you to be aware of is in terms of expanding our student leadership and peer mentoring programs. We have partnered with the Big Brothers and Big Sisters program. In particular, it's called the STARS program. We have a pilot at Harrison, Fox Meadow, and Carmel. It's a student leadership academy where we have mentors of our upperclassmen mentor our lowerclassmen. And so in particular at Harrison High School, what that would look like is our seniors are mentors to our freshmen. And then likewise at our middle schools, our 8th graders are mentors to our 6th graders. And so that addresses that middle bullet where we're talking about expansion of student leadership and peer mentorship programs, because we know that students will listen to each other more than they'll listen to adults a lot of times. And when we ask if you have a trusted adult, they'll have a trusted friend before they have a trusted adult. And so we have to meet our students where they're at. And the last point is strengthening relationships so every student has a trusted adult to report a concern. We have made a concerted effort this year to promote connection circles. And that has really been an opportunity for our students to see each other as people and as classmates, and same with our teachers to address them as a person, then also as a student. And so those connection circles have been a purposeful effort for us to build those relationships. Before I move on to staff, any questions I can address for you about students?
Add one. Now that we code restorative practices, is that just more for D2 or does CDE acknowledge that as well?
I'm going to let Scott speak to that. He'll be able to better verse than I am.
Yes, the restorative practices that get recorded into IC, those are going to be reported as a behavior event.
Mr. Bristol, I noticed that in grades 3 through 5, 1 and 3 occurrences of bullying are not reported, and in grades 6 through 12, 2 and 3 are not reported. What do you attribute that to?
That's a great question. Yeah, I think there could be a number of factors there. I think we might need to do some education on what bullying means with our students. Sometimes what adults would consider to be bullying, students might not. But when the question is asked, do you see bullying more often than you see a consequence for it, then there might be a disconnect there. So I guess if anything, it reveals an opportunity to educate of what it is and what it is not. But that's all I can share with you at this point.
We've talked with our admin about and Derek's here, so I'll use him as example. Andy saw Scott bullying. Derek might have addressed Scott, but Andy never knows that because it's never seen, and Derek's not reporting back to Andy what happened to Scott. And so we talked about being more transparent and following through with the person who's reporting the bullying. He doesn't have to share, well, Scott's now in trouble and he doesn't get lunch recess, but he can say, I talked to him and here's what we're doing. So closing that loop, we really need to work on that with our admin of closing the loop of what's the next.
I have questions. So, if only 1 in 3 occurrences are being, are not being reported, how do you know that?
This is all student self-report. It's a perception survey.
Okay.
And so this is what the student believes to be true for them. And so whether it is fact, that's unknowable, but this is what they feel. And so it's worth having their voice be shown.
Okay, and then also, are you getting any feedback from students in regards to how it's working? And then also from parents. Are you getting any feedback? Like, oh yeah, this is restorative practices are great. I feel better now. And
I can answer that. And then the parent section, they'll get to the parent, so I'll wait for the parent section. But it depends on your perspective. So if you believe in restorative practices, you're a fan of restorative practices. If you want everyone to be suspended or expelled, you might not like it so much. So it really depends on the situation, and it depends on where your kid lands in the situation. So if your kid is not getting suspended and we're doing alternative behavior responses, you might be a fan because we didn't suspend him or expel him. If your kid was kind of in the scuffle and you see that kid not getting suspended or expelled, sometimes you have questions of why aren't you kicking that kid out? And so even though we've been doing it for a while, there's still a lot of sense making for families around it. And what does it look like and why are we doing that? And so we have a lot of work to do around communication of why suspension is not the best strategy and why we try other methods. So some people are fans and some people aren't. And I would say that for teachers also. Some teachers are really aligned with it and see it, and some teachers maybe don't see that purpose. And so we have more work on our end around the communication and the sense making.
I like it. But I do agree that the sense making part, there needs to be more.
I was just going to tack on a little bit. This highlights document, this one is coming specifically from a question that asks students, I have reported bullying when it occurs at my school. So.
Well, just not to be defensive, but bullying is the hardest topic to get people to agree to what it means. Because in kindergarten, it means I didn't get to be the line leader. In 6th grade, it means that my boyfriend now has a new girlfriend. And in high school, it can mean anything. And so we have to really educate students on what bullying is and what it isn't. And everything that doesn't go your way is not bullying. And families also.
Question. You know, a lot of time the students now are talking about bullying, but it's more cyber. Will we ever include like a cyber type bullying on our student survey?
Great question. That is on the Healthy Kids survey, and we do that every other year, but we don't have it in our district survey.
Well, will it be added to the district survey?
We certainly can. This is a survey that we get to control. And so we have a process in place with the Superintendent's Advisory Council to say, what are some questions that you would need information about that this survey does not allow you to get? And so we have a vetting process to balance that out. And we have to kind of balance the length of the survey as well. And so there's certainly a lot more questions we'd like to know, but we can add that to the list. You proceed to staff. All right, for staff, in terms of positives in a theme, what I'd like you to hear is that staff see that the whole child approach is working and is the way to go. You see that with the school-based staff agree that there's positive relationships. The school-based staff believe that their work supports students positively, and that they also know what to do if a student is struggling with mental health. And so it's the academics, the behavior, and the emotional side of educating a student that they feel value in. And so that's a high-level takeaway of what our staff believe about our students. In terms of improvement opportunities, one of the things that our staff made very clear is about 3/4 of them know how to access materials that help them manage their workplace stress. And so I'll talk about that in our next steps. And also, about the same number, about 3/4 of our students believe that discipline is enforced according to the school's code of conduct. And so that might be an opportunity to make sure they understand what the code of conduct does and doesn't do. But if anything, it's a statement to the district that we have some work to do in either on the enforcement side or on the educating side of our student code of conduct. In terms of our next steps, we have, I talked a little bit about how we have the restorative practices as a reportable code in Infinite Campus now. And so that is a way that we can track our progress to align to restorative practices. A next step is we don't have a way to measure our progress outside of that. We don't have goals set for the number of suspension reductions due to restorative practices, and so that is kind of the progression of our work. And in terms of next steps to help our staff manage their workplace stress, we have a number of opportunities through our staff wellness instructional coordinator. He provides professional development on resilience and grit, also on mindfulness. There's also a course on healthy food preparation. And so again, trying to address the whole person approach to our staff to make sure that they have balance there in their lives. Well, questions about staff that I can help address as well. For our parents and guardians, one of the things that they show that they believe in about the district is that they they support the belief structure of D2 with our core beliefs. You see that with their embrace of diversity, and that they believe that parents agree, the district believes that students are capable of excellence. So that's the statement that staff believes that their students can learn, which is an important fact. And then the last part is on some of our facilities and curb appeal. This is an area of improvement over the last 5 years. If we were to show you the 5-year progression of this question, the curb appeal and how our facilities look, this has probably gone up over 10%. And so to be at 94% of our students are proud of how our schools look, both inside and out, that's a testament to the work of the bond team over the last half a decade. And what they're telling us that we need to improve on is making sure they are told when their child does something good. Don't have the only contact be when they need something from their parents in terms of a behavior improvement opportunity, and making sure that we are consistent with making sure they know their academic performance as students as well. And so, again, it's really communication. Tell us when they're doing good, and tell us when they have an opportunity to improve as a student. And so in terms of our next steps, it's prioritizing positive, proactive communication home. I know some of our schools make that a practice to do one positive email or one positive phone call a week. Find a student, see the good. And so that's not widespread, but that's been a challenge that I've heard Ms. Lawfer share to our admin and echoed by Dr. Burhansel as well. And same thing with increasing engagement through meetings outside of conferences, just to establish that check-in point on academics as well. Questions for us about grants?
Do, yeah, are staff visits into the homes popular anymore? I remember.
They happen all the time.
Okay.
I would say most of the people going are admin, social workers, counselors, sometimes teachers, but a lot of times they happen during the day, so teachers are with kids. But funny you asked that, because when I bring that up in realm of superintendents, it's very unusual that people do that anymore. But that's what we expect. And I mean, principals can tell you, we expect they go find them, or they go to wherever the parent's working and have that conference. And so I would say counselors are doing at least once a week. They're at some home, and admin every month they're visiting somewhere.
And I will point out, sorry, Mrs. Robinson.
I was just wondering, are elementary grades in IC now? Can parents go into for elementary or no?
We're going to have to turn to Dr. Claudio to help me with that.
Well,
Do
just,
they have access to the standards-based report cards?
well, for example, for the middle school, high school, as a parent, you can go in and see, but back in the day that we were the last, so I used to require first 3 weeks progress report, second 3 weeks progress report. Then conference, you're not surprised, because our parent, at the elementary, we could not access IC. I mean, we couldn't go in and see grades.
For the grade,
And so I'm just wondering, can elementary parents see, just like the high school parents can go in and see?
I would have to
grades?
check, but I don't think so. I don't
Okay.
think they have that ability, because we're doing the standards-based report cards, and that's not how IC is set up. But I can verify and get back to you, Dr. Robinson.
I was just wondering, I mean, because one of our next steps is frequent meetings, and people stress a little sometimes thinking they have to meet. I was just, if that were the case, I would say maybe we have to inform parents, hey, you can go in and see, but that wouldn't work. I'm just wondering, it just sounds like conference is when they find out their student is not where they should be.
So I would say a couple things. We do still mandate progress monitoring. It's on the calendar. Without being the data person, that's right here, and he could tell us, I can guarantee you that those parents not informed are secondary. Because our elementary does a great job. I mean, they know their reading score, they know where they're doing, and it's our secondary where there's multiple teachers and we don't do as good of a job. Personally, if I could cancel parent conferences, I would, because I think we lean on that too much as educators, and we should meet with parents as we need to, not because it's a day in October. And we've kind of pushed that message of, if the first time you're meeting the family is in October, that's too late. So definitely we are working on that, but I would say we definitely have a bigger room to grow in the secondary than the elementary. And just by
that's fine.
nature also.
And so they're pretty prompt. They've been, the high school, middle school. I wonder if we inform our parents on how to go into IC if it's secondary.
We can do that, ma'am. And at the elementary level, we know that our elementary school teachers use Dojo almost on a daily
They are
basis. And
very,
so
so that clarified, because I'm thinking, well, maybe it's elementary, but no, if it's high school, parents have access.
yes.
But I don't know if they know. Maybe as middle and high school, I don't know, how could we inform our parents on how to get
I
on
think
there?
we all know that parents are way more engaged when they're 5, and the engagement wears off as the kids get older. And a lot of times in high school, I know that the kids are monitoring their grades and they're going into IC and they're in advisory looking, but we could incorporate something where they have to show someone at their house. And so who have you relayed your grades to? So that we have that conversation before it becomes an F or too far to change the grade. But our kids are very savvy in IC, and parents who want to be are, but not all are, and not all of them are sufficient or have a device to go in. And so we know we have work to do around that. And I don't want to say all secondary, but some of secondary struggles to get those parents in IC. And I think also because parents then get a grade and don't know necessarily how to help them. So that's the next part that comes. So what do I do if my kid's failing? And we have to bridge that gap of when you do see that, what can we do?
Love for them to know before, especially high school when we're really counting on those credits, and October is just scary. So
If we can send something out from student support in conjunction with Christine O'Brien and her team to remind them this is how you get into IC to get information on your child's grade.
I just have a really quick comment on that. So I recently worked with a caregiver who didn't know that Infinite Campus was available and how to get in touch with the teachers and all of that. So it was, my daytime job is helping people navigate. And so I walked her through step by step. You click here, you can see the teacher's email address. And the only reason I knew was because I use it a lot to monitor progress and communicate with teachers. And I love it because it's real time. And I think, to your point, if parents were aware that it's really helpful and that it's really helpful, they could also do that. And I'm wondering if there is a place where a parent can log in and check a box to, I don't know, that might be helpful. Or even ask for assistance, and that somebody might be able to see.
Thank you. I took note of that. We'll see if that can be even part of our registration system and in conjunction with messaging that goes out with Christine O'Brien. For the last part of the survey, we want to make sure you see two things. I want you to see the high level of what the reports are telling us, but also there is a new domain in the survey that would be interesting, and Mr. Weldon's going to talk to you about that.
Thank you, Andy. So this is essentially a highlight of the highlights. Got inception here. So one thing our team thought was important for you to see is there's 3 domains that show up frequently on each of our surveys as the highest rated. So across students in elementary, students in secondary, school-based staff, and parents and guardians. And those 3 domains are school leadership, family involvement, and student support. So what this table is trying to show you is which one was ranked 1, first, second, or third for each of those different surveys. So read up and down, you'll see the area. So students in elementary ranked school leadership as their top domain. Family involvement, student support, academic support was a 3-way tie for second. Our elementary students love us based on the survey. They give very, very high responses. Our secondary students then ranked family involvement as number 1, school leadership as number 2, and student support as number 3. So school-based staff, now we're talking about adults, they ranked student support as number 1, family involvement as 3, and school leadership as 4th, with academic support being in 2nd. And then our parents and guardians, they ranked district core beliefs for 1, back to all students are capable of excellence, mission statement, student support as number 2, and school leadership as number 3. So I think it speaks very high of our school leadership that they're frequently one of the top domains. For family involvement and parents, I did note that that is their lowest rated domain, which I thought was worth noting. But again, parents, the surveys are all like high 80s. So it's lowest rated, but it's still a very high score. Yeah, if you have questions about that, I don't blame you. It is a little tricky chart to get. The other thing that we did want to show and make sure was highlighted was the new domain that was added to the survey this year, which was about career-connected learning. So we asked our students if they are able to relate their learning to job skills. 83% of elementary kids said they do, and 71% of secondary say they are able to relate what they're learning in class to a job that they're thinking about or future career. Another big initiative that we've been pushing are college career fairs and increasing chances for students to have participation in those. Right now, we have 36% of our 9th through 12th grade students saying they have already participated in one of these fairs. Obviously, that's just a starting point, and we up. Another big question that everyone always wants to know is, what do you plan to do after graduation? And I do think it's interesting that we talk a lot about other pathways, but a lot of our 11th and 12th grade students still would name college as their first plan after school, after high school, besides being undecided, which this was an open-ended question where they could ask, they could check multiple boxes. So some people did check college and undecided, or workforce and undecided. But proportionally, those boxes represent the most common response. Do you have, before I go to the next page, would you like to ask any questions on this?
That's all our baseline data. Like you said, we started this collection of data to align with our strategic plan around career readiness. And so we're excited to continue to monitor, continue to fine tune the questions if it's not the right question, and be able to respond accordingly as we see. And I would say the 36%, although that probably seems low, if you would have given this a year ago, I would say it would be 5%. We were not offering college and career fairs even a year ago at the rate we are now. So we are increasing that quite.
So the final page comes from our analyst, our data analyst. So we always look at changes year to year. These are the statistically significant ones, meaning they weren't likely to happen due to random chance. So our secondary students, we actually have 6% more saying that they're able to work out disagreements. So while that's still an improvement opportunity, it's going in the right direction. Our elementary students, while that's a very high result, 89% say they feel safe in class. It was a statistically significant decrease from the prior year. And one of the interesting things that we noticed from last year to this year is all statistically significant increases were at secondary. We only had one statistically significant change at elementary, and it was a little bit down equity. While I'm talking about the data analyst, I'm just here talking about the data, but really all the work, the credit goes to David Rogers, who put together all the reports that are in board docs and even made them accessible to accessibility law, where you can see the images.
Can you explain how to read that chart?
Yes. So that is a percent change from just last year to this year. And it's on this table in front of you because it was statistically significant. So it's not every change. Obviously, there's only the one domain listed there for elementary. The 6 through 12 equity, there was a 4% increase, and that was statistically significant. You can read across 3 to 5 equity, that was down 2%. And that's just percentages of agree and strongly agree. That's what we consider a positive outcome. All the questions are asked in a positive light.
So the decrease in equity 3 through 5, is that grade 3 through?
That's great.
What was the question?
That would be several questions.
And as he's looking at that, this is our second year of asking this question. And so it probably is stabilizing a little bit. I think we have to, the term equity is a teachable moment for our little ones. So that's part of it as well.
There's 3 questions for that grade level, grade span, sorry. My teachers treat all students fairly. Everyone is accepted at my school, and everyone is respected at my school. The lowest score comes from that last one. Everyone is respected at my school. Pretty much everyone agrees that all the teachers treat everyone fairly and everyone's accepted. There's a bigger group that don't feel everyone is respected.
Thank you for that, because I think those are great questions to ask, even at the
Before they finish, I want to just say, like, now what are we going to do with this? I think many districts don't even do a survey like this because what it could tell you could be scary. Some do a survey and do nothing with it, which I think is even worse. Because if you're going to do it, you better do something with it because it takes people's time. And you see our team has spent a lot of time putting this together. We do a thorough look. Scott tells us what looks significant, you know, and tells us what he sees from an outsider, which is really helpful because he's not in the classroom. So he can tell us data-wise what we should be alerted to. Executive team then looks at it and develops what are our next steps as a district and how are we going to address different areas. Not that we ignore certain things, but if we know there was something specific of why that happened at that school, then we might not address that because we have other information. And then in January, each school gets their survey data and they come up with what are the next steps, what are the things we're proud of, and what are the things we're going to work on with their SAC committee. And so when we talk about we use survey data and we tell our ugly and we're very transparent, this is where it all lies. I will say one trick this year for us is Christine's new legal guidance that she cannot put charts on our website because of the new bill that says everything has to be accessible for various people. And that has created a little change for us because our team does very beautiful charts, but we can't put those charts on there. So we're trying to figure out how best to share that data in a different way that also helps people understand, but it will be available on our webpage, again, to be transparent for our families, for our community, because they need to know this.
How and when are these surveys administered? I've often wondered, is it like during the day do these kids take these?
It's up to the school. I will tell you, elementary, they will, because we have one-on-ones, everyone get out your laptop and we're going to do the survey now. Secondary is usually they pick a class, so they do it all in social studies or they do it all in English. High school is the trickiest to get because we can't say do it in 9th grade English. Not every kid takes 9th grade English or they're off campus for concurrent. And so high school still is tricky to gather. But schools know that we have a competition and you get special messages if you haven't met a certain percentage taking the test, right, Derek? So we just help them remember to take the quiz or the survey and help keep them informed of how many students and how many staff have taken it. For staff, they usually are given time at their POC or they're given time in a grade level meeting. It is all anonymous, but we do have comments and we also read every single comment and use that as a combination of evidence to support the school. And that it's September.
Yeah, it's the last week, right at the beginning here. The 4 weeks, right at the end of the first quarter.
Thank you. I think it was a wonderful presentation and like the strategies that you're going to make improvements on. Even if they're rated high, there's still always room. Thank you so much. So we are going to item number 6.
Presentation of the night. Catherine.
6.1, Legal Department. Catherine Ritchie.
She's waiting for her rest of her team to come.
Okay, thank you very much, guys. Good evening. President Wills Hill, members of the board, student representative, Dr. Burhan. Department to present this evening. So about a year and a half ago, the legal work for School District 2 came in-house as a result of Mr. Kelly Dude retiring practice of law. So I'm just here to give you a little update on what has been happening. So you'll see, let's see, go to the next. There we go. So on a daily basis, and I mean literally every day, reviewing and revising contracts with existing and or potential vendors. We've got a lot of vendors, but we also have a lot of new contracts and new partners. So developing those and working with our new partners on how to put something in our format. We're currently, excuse me, developing standard contracts. All of our vendors. I also respond to Colorado Open Records Act requests. We had 31 this calendar year, so quite a few. Most of those were fulfilled. A few were not because they were either abandoned. They were abandoned primarily because of do incur fees as a result of filing a core request. Oh my goodness! Thank you. He's the best. Give me just a moment. And then on a daily basis, respond to requests from schools and district departments on various things like interpreting guardianship paperwork, what to do with a subpoena, interpretation of court orders. You know, a lot of those court orders are written in Latin and nobody knows what they say. So helping people understand those. Lots of Title IX questions, you know, Title IX applicable through in K through 12, along with higher education, and ensures that individual based upon their gender, also ensures freedom from sexual harassment. And then interpretation of laws and bills. And I will discuss a couple of bills coming up here in just a moment. Ongoing projects include, but are not limited to, monitoring litigation. We've got some open litigation matters, just keeping an eye on those. Contract development, again, actually working very closely with my friend Corey over in finance. We work on contracts a lot. And so with her help, developing a uniform contract to use with our vendors. And then revising in our drafting policies and regulations. You know, when we've got legislation that it's enacted, changes a law, creates a law, whatever the case may be, policies are oftentimes, they need to be revised. So keeping an eye on those, and then developing guidance for staff in an effort to establish a uniform approach to various issues for trips. We need all the paperwork in place, so here's your packet of guidance on what to do with any field. I mentioned legislation, so upcoming legislation to watch, and that's one of my big job duties, keeping an eye, and I just listed 2 up there, but I will mention I am on the Pikes Peak Alliance committees with Dr. Burhansel and CFO Corey Arkeries, and we attended one of our Alliance meetings. Just some areas of interest you might want to keep an eye on because they're coming up. Budget cuts, of course, we're going to see those. There's a bill coming forward that would eliminate prosecution for kids ages 10 through. You could not be prosecuted. In addition, it would require that community partners and school districts provide services to the that are not going to be profitable. Let's just stay tuned. We'll see what happens with that. Very, very interesting, perplexing possibly. Another bill that is being proposed is one that requires district to provide transportation to charter schools. So we're going to keep an eye on that. Just interesting stuff. One that I am really geeking out over is the CORA revisions bill. So CORA is our Colorado Open Records Act statute, and it requires that you respond to a request within 3 business days, unless you need an extension, and that extension could be up to 7 business. The proposed revised CORA statute or CORA bill would revise the statute to give 5 business. No, that's so exciting. And 10 additional business days if you need it. So something to keep an eye out on. I'm really excited about that. And then Title IX revisions, you know, the revisions to our Title IX law went into effect in the summer of 24. And we have a new administration coming in January. So we need to keep an eye on that because those will likely be changing. So those are some highlights of your lead.
Thank you, Catherine. Welcome. I have to say, the past year and a half has been really a pleasure working, having you on site to answer our questions promptly. Back in the day, of course, we'd have to call an attorney, and no sooner than they pick up the phone, the meter starts running. So I appreciate it. And Dr. Burhansel, I don't know what her salary is, but surely it's got to be less than what our legal bills or legal obligations.
Huge cost savings, and just executive team was talking about, we don't know how we existed before her, because, and the reality is we probably let things go because we were not going to call a lawyer to get the advice. And so we just didn't do something, or we didn't do it as well. And now, I mean, she's had a week, so this is not an example, but she's constantly going to school. She's interviewing kids. She's talking to parents. She's talking to staff. She's, you know, her time is well used, and she probably could use a team, even though her team is one powerful one. But it's just made us a better place in D2, and there's not one person who doesn't feel it, because it's just really, schools know they can call and get advice when they're not the experts, and also the person in the role matters, and having someone who can explain the legalese to you and not make you feel like you don't know what you're talking about. And she fully believes in our mission here in D2. So it's just, it's been a great, great asset to us, and we use her fully.
Thank you, Dr. Burke.
Andrew Kundefan. Have a good semester. I have questions. Have the House bill?
Don't think. I can tell you the transportation to charter schools.
Okay.
Just wondering, how, within your circle of lobbyists and so on, buzz around the 12, the littles not being
That's a great question. Today was about that. So I haven't consulted. Let you know. I can just tell you, I personally, accountability. It's freaking.
have code just needing to probably expand, because the school districts would do more wraparound, meaning
Right.
expanding your staff.
Yeah. But I don't know if there's a.
For ages. What about 5 through
They are, they and so essentially this bill would extend that to 12.
On the topic, I will just say, there's also a big problem between you're crashing into vape shops with every weekend and you can't, you're under the age, so it's not just the 10, but it's students, or not students, but just community members doing these behaviors younger, and the law, so people can't do certain things, along with lack of support in our community for beds for these times. They might get sent home, ankle monitor, because there is no place to have these support. Community, as a state, we're seeing this big push that our students need more help at a younger age.
Thank you.
Same to you. That is reserved. IDE.
Madam President, Harrison School District Number 2, a resolution calling for full and permanent funding of IDEA. Whereas public education is the cornerstone of our democracy, providing fundamental skills and opportunities to nearly 50 million children across the United States. And whereas in the decade following the Great Recession, students across the U.S. lost nearly $600 billion from the state's disinvestment in their public schools. And whereas prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, both state and federal funding for public schools failed to meet the critical needs of students across the country. And whereas the federal government provided nearly $200 billion through 3 issuances of Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Act, also known as ESSER, to states and school districts. And whereas the realized impact of ESSER funding is that it has benefited students' academic, social, emotional, and mental health needs through targeted programming and additional personnel, enhanced professional development opportunities, new technology, as well as critical updates to school facilities. And whereas research has consistently shown that increased education funding positively affects academic performance, increases graduation rates, and impacts future earnings. And whereas without an infusion of federal public education funding by Congress, it is estimated that districts will have to cut an average of $1,200 per student from their budgets. And whereas the systemic and chronic underfunding of public schools is a strategy by those who want to dismantle the public education system to disseminate the quality of education that public schools can provide. And whereas when the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, also known as IDEA, was passed in 1975, the federal government committed to pay 40% of the average per pupil expenditure for special education to ensure that every child with a disability has access to high quality education. And whereas the financial pledge of IDEA has never been met and is currently funded at approximately 10.7%, leaving a gap of billions of dollars needed for students. And whereas Harrison School District 2 is proud to serve a student population that includes an average 20% of students with disabilities. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Harrison School District Number 2 Board of Education calls on Congress to immediately pass the IDEA Full Funding Act, coded S2217 HR 4519, which would create a 10-year mandatory path to fully fund IDEA, and the Harrison School District Number 2 Board of Education calls on the state legislature to provide adequate, equitable, and sustainable funding increases to districts to mitigate the harm caused by decades of underfunded schools. In witness whereof, we have unto set our hands and caused the official seal of Harrison School District Number 2 to be hereunto affixed this 12th day of December 2024.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. I just wanted to bring to the attention of the board that IDEA is not being fully funded. So the cost for D2 is at least $10 million. So with that being said, I just need a recommended motion to approve the 2024 resolution funding IDEA.
Madam President, I move to approve the 2024 resolution funding for IDEA.
Motion to approve the 2024 resolution funding for IDEA by Mr. Williams, second by Ms. Frazier. All those in favor?
Aye.
Resolution is passed. We're going to item 8.3. It is the mill levy resolution 2024. Ori Arcares.
Oh, Madam President, members of the board, and Dr. Burhansel. First, I want to apologize for the technical difficulties with our audit presentation. My administrative assistant retired, and so while I can do these complicated finance formulas, I can't bring up a PowerPoint. So, so I will first say that. I just want to review really quickly a couple of things. First, it's legal compliance by Colorado state law that that the Board of Education certifies the county commissioners of the amounts that are to be levied with the mill levy override. The mill levy is based upon the assessed valuation information provided by the local county in late November, which is why we're presenting it at this board meeting. The certification of the mill levy for tax year 2024, which will be collected in the first quarter of 2025. The estimated numbers as provided to us, you can see that the property tax year 2023 was $986 million, and the property tax year of 2024 will be about $1 billion, which is a net change of $21.9 million. Total program, the mill levy override that was passed in 2000, that is ongoing. That one does not sunset. The mill levy override that was passed in 2024 does sunset after 10 years, and any abatements. So it would be a net increase to the general fund of $9.1 million per year. So over the 10 years, it's $90 million. So I just wanted to make sure to point that number out since it's the main one on here. Again, as you know, I'm a big fan of pointing out what matters when a bunch of numbers are thrown in. Because we have a bond redemption, that gives us 110,000 negative for a total net of the levy to be 8.9 or 9 million, almost 9 million. So just to give you the numbers of where we're. For tax years 2020 through 2024, this is just a 5-year mill levy comparison. You will see that that we will be at about 14.3 in mill levies. You can see it really translates to some basic numbers. And to me, it's easier to show the basic numbers rather than the chart. For a home value, an average home value of $100,000, the assessment rate is about 6.95% with an assessed value of almost $7,000. The mill levy is 44.7. So the annual tax amount for every $100,000 your home is worth is $311 per year. You know, I'm going through it pretty fast, but I'm trying to hit the highlights to make sure that you at least come away with the main number. This is comparison to other school districts. We still remain one of the lowest or the second lowest. Fountain is the lowest mill levied general fund, override, and bond. You can see that the numbers are higher for our neighboring district 12, and we are the very first column. You can see we're not outrageously high. Okay, so next steps, we need the board to certify the mill levy for El Paso County on or before December 16th. So we're coming in just at the deadline. Certify the mill levy to the Colorado Department of Education, which we will do before December 20th, 2020. And that.
So at this point, I'm going to ask Mr. Williams to read the mill levy resolution.
Madam President, Harrison School District 2 Mill Levy Certification Resolution. Whereas pursuant to Section 22-40-102 Colorado Revised Statutes, on or before December 16, 2024, the Board of Education of Harrison School District 2 shall certify to the Board of County Commissioners of El Paso County the amounts necessary to be raised from levies against the valuation for assessment of all taxable property located within the school district for the general fund and the bond redemption fund for the current fiscal year. And whereas the El Paso County Assessor has provided to Harrison School District Number 2 the 2024 certifications of valuation and written notice to the school district of refunds and abatements as of November 25, 2024. And whereas under applicable Colorado law, including the provisions of Section 39-10-114 Colorado Revised Statutes, the Board of Education of Harrison School District Number 2 shall adjust its mill levy as determined under the Public School Finance Act of 1994, Section 22-54-101, et sequence, Colorado Revised Statutes, to collect revenues lost through previous years' abatements and refunds. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Education of Harrison School District Number 2, El Paso County, Colorado, herewith authorizes and certifies to the Board of County Commissioners of El Paso County, State of Colorado, the total amount of $30,663,989 to be raised from a levy of 30.42 mills, consisting of a standard levy of 15.72 mills pursuant to the Public School Finance Act of 1994, 14.632 mills approved by voters as mill levy overrides, and 0.068 mills for abatements and refunds against the net valuation of assessment in the amount of $1,008,020,670 for all taxable property located within the boundaries of the school district for the general fund of the school district for the fiscal period beginning July 1, 2024 and ending June 30, 2025. And be it further resolved that the Board of Education of the Harrison School District Number 2, El Paso County, Colorado, herewith authorizes and certifies to the Board of County Commissioners of El Paso County, State of Colorado, the amount of $14,441,912 to be raised from a mill levy of 14.327 mills against the net valuation of assessment in the amount of $1,800,020,670 for all taxable property located within the boundaries of the school district for the bond redemption fund of the school district for the fiscal period beginning July 1, 2024 and ending June 30, 2025. And be it further resolved that the Secretary of the Board of Education be and is hereby directed to forward the certification for each fund by a copy of this resolution to the Board of County Commissioners for El Paso County, State of Colorado. approve this day, the 12th day of December 2024.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. I'm going to give you an extra gold star for reading all those numbers. We are to item 8.4. I just need a recommended motion to approve the mill levy resolution for fiscal year 2024.
Madam President, I move to approve the mill levy resolution for fiscal year 2024.
Second.
Motion to approve the mill levy resolution for fiscal year 2024 by Mr. Williams, second by Ms. Pam Robinson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Resolution is approved. We're moving on to item 9, operational expect. We're at item 9.1, 7, financial administration. And Ms. Corey Arcuri.
Thank you. I don't think they, I know, I'm here once again. I don't think you heard from me this much. I'd just like to report the monitoring report for OE7 with respect to expectations policy. Everything is compliant where financial administration pertains to the financial record bookkeeping of the district and is compliant, meeting all key areas of payment debts, purchasing procedures, competitive bidding processes, external annual audit, collection of funds, financial record keeping, transfer of funds, and timely reporting. We are compliant, and I have reported, we kind of did this backwards, but included in this is that we will annual audits on a timely basis, that we pass those audits. The only thing that has changed is that the threshold for our RFP process went from 5,000 to 10,000. I did note that before. So in all areas, we are compliant. We are working on continued
Just a reminder to the board, we're monitoring this off cycle because we needed time for Corey and her team to get in there to be able to really give you factual information. And it is all coming out compliant. That does not mean things are not changing, but for what we are monitoring against the indicators, it is all compliant at this point.
I think I was due to report this several months ago.
Done an excellent job of playing catch up. How's
Yes,
that?
Ms. Arcurius, yes. In the 5 years that I've been on the board, this particular OE has never been completely compliant. Even though we know we have some room for some improvement, this is the first time OE7 has been my time on the board. Thank you, Ms. Arcurius.
Anyone else have any additional comments? Right. Then this,
Need a comment because it's going directly to consent, so quickly come up.
the board headed 7 financial administration monitor. December 12th, 2024. 7, financial administration. Respect to the operational expectations policy 07. PERS. 7, financial administration as it pertains to 2023. Record keeping of the district is in compliance with meeting all key areas. I'm going to actually send.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate that.
Right. Still up. Item 9.2, OE7, financial indicator.
We are also compliant with with O7 operational indicator report. This one, evidence of compliance is evident. We have purchasing department our RFP process, our group purchasing process, now negotiate a group level. Gotten to significant several key areas like some other this one is
This is where you will see she has suggested that we're increasing monitoring 5%, $5,000 purchases, upping it to 10,000, just as costs increase, the number of things we buy under 5,000 increases. So have some room.
Will you be able to report back the savings due to the implemented process at some point?
yes, and we will probably see it when we do it because that time we projection of where we're and what we're already seeing some of it, but
There's no further questions or comments. If we could- Thank you so much. Thank you. Item 10, for consent agenda. 10.1 is approval of minutes for session and 4. Item 10.207, financial monitoring. Item 10.307, financial indicator report. Item 10.4, I just need to.
Madam President, I move to accept the board consent agenda item, the consent agenda as presented, excuse me.
Motion by Mr. Williams to accept the board consent agenda as presented by Mr. Williams, second by Ms. Frazier. All those in favor? Aye.
Madam President, could you repeat the second? For recording, second.
Second.
Thank you, Madam President.
Item 11, superintendent consent. Number 20, personnel and comparison. 7.2.
Madam President, I move to approve the superintendent consent agenda items as stated.
Second.
Into a superintendent consent stated by Mr. Williams, second by Sam Robinson. Favor? Aye. No. Changes.
Madam President, I'd like to read that
It looks like on, say, December. First board session is tried to so then do the following.
I'm available. 17th of January.
15th of January, same time, 3.
Yes.
I ask what executive team members you would like based on what. Their feelings are not heard if they're.
Your feelings are hurt.
I'll be there.
Okay, great. Based upon that schedule. All right, item 12.2, if there's discussion.
Irma has a question.
There's an event that you all are invited to. I'll be sending right. It's High Impact Tutoring Site Visit, the 29th of January, all day from 8 to 4 o'clock. But I'll send out the flyer. Like to do.
This is a grant we got. Ironically, the grant's going away, so it's. But we are one of the high performing the grant, and so they're having others. So you have the schedule. So if you want to just lunch, if you want to just, we'll share the specifics with you so you can not have to be. And I was just going to say, I can't emphasize enough, our graduation date has changed. So you're used to it being the week before Memorial Day. It is not. So make sure you put it in your calendar for the right day. Day is it,
May 13th. So if
Richie Rep shared them all.
So we are going to item 12C, board updates, conference comments. Reps can be. Back on it.
We had quite a few conferences this particular semester, including CUBE. We didn't get a chance to share out CUBE. Very good information being spread all around, especially with programs that are geared towards students getting into working spaces instead of going to college and incurring such costs that they may not be able to pay back. There are a lot of different decisions being made by school districts across the country to help students better prepare for the workforce instead of college. And CASB this year, I did miss the first day where our students were presenting. Some things came up with work, but I heard you guys did a phenomenal job. And I did see some highlights from the video, so I'm very proud of you guys. And to speak with some of the other students from some other places, they all speak very highly of you. So I'm very proud of you guys. And anytime I go to these conferences, I wear my D2 jacket and folks are pointing out, hey, D2, like you guys are the best. So that is a testament to the effort that you guys put into showcasing us, and I applaud you guys and I appreciate you guys for the work that you do. So thank you guys.
I've attended as the sixth delegate. I attended the Colorado Association of School Boards Fall Conference and Delegate Assembly in Pueblo this year on October 18th and 19th. What we do during this particular conference is all of the regional delegates come together to propose, discuss, revise, or act upon pending resolutions that are submitted by member school districts of CASB. They are then forwarded to our legislators for consideration. That is a very important part of my work as a Region 6 delegate. Also, I, along with our colleagues here, we all went to the CUBE conference October 28th through 30th, and we all did attend various sessions on education for students in what I guess Colorado Springs is considered an urban school district. November 21st through 24th, I attended the National Alliance of Black School Educators Conference in Atlanta. I took copious notes and I'd be able to share, but I did want to highlight some of the sessions that I attended. One was titled Courageous Leadership in Challenging Times. Another, Educating Black and Brown Boys Beyond the Trauma. Another was Governance in Education. Also, I attended the Affiliate Delegate Assembly. Colorado Springs is designated as an affiliate, which is led now by our House District 17 State Rep, Dr. Regina English, and I did see her there. Also, there was one session, Bridging the Gap, the impact of preschool attendance on educational outcomes of kindergarten students. That was very interesting. The keynote speaker was Dr. Daniel Black. He's an award-winning novelist, professor, activist, mentor, and public speaker. Books that he has authored are titled Perfect Peace, Don't Cry for Me, Isaac's Song, and Black on Black. We also, as a board, attended the Gazette 2024 Best of the Springs, where we were awarded second place as the best workplace for 2024. So that's worthy of mention.
I just want to clarify, we were the only school district that won a Best of Workplace award.
Now that's wonderful. And also, I attended several Christmas events at my assigned schools, and I also attended the Carmel Community Cafe, and we have another meeting coming. That is my.
I would just like to say that although I always try to go to every session at a conference with an open mind, I am proud to say that I reach to really get new information because we are already doing a lot of what the district is just on the cutting edge. One very interesting session was the impact of, is it ICE? Is that the correct acronym? It was really great. We learned some really good information in case that occurs again. And so just some really good strategies that we can share offline, you know. Again, I also went to Hoopsters on the weekend, which is the 3rd through 5th grade basketball. I'm looking forward to soccer if we do that one. And I also I attended several of the middle school basketball. Their season is ending Monday, I think, with their tournament. But during those times here in the district, I try to network with parents and just get a feel of how they're feeling, and really great overall results. Not one parent has used me as a sounding board to complain. So I think that the staff is doing a great job.
Thank you, Ms. JJ, for sharing all of the conferences, including the conferences that we attended together, so I'm not going to add to that. But I would like to say that there have been a lot of interesting conversations that I've been a part of, in which I could really talk to organizations in our city and let them know the great work that we are doing in Harrison School District 2. And Christine, I have directed them to you. So you might be hearing from Jen Wild, and then also another organization in regards to access to healthcare. And so when we talk about our community, it is different, but people are seeing the great things happening in our community. So we've talked a long time about changing the narrative of Southeast Colorado Springs, and there's no one that can honestly deny that D2 isn't doing great things, right? And so I wanted to take this time to say thank you, Dr. Berhansel, to you and the executive team, because everything that we've heard today, from surveys to our new CFO and, finance department, that restructuring and all of the new things, and Catherine being here every day and available for staff, that's great. I don't think that, from what I've heard, people are in awe and they're inspired by what we're doing. So keep up the great work, and I'm proud to be D2. Thank you.
Oh, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but probably the most impactful one I attended, it was insights from the 2006 Grand Island immigration raid conversation. It's a real thing. Happened in Nebraska, could happen here. So it kind of heightened my awareness of what systems need to be put into place, preparation for. It's not the if it happens, it's when. And I'm confident in our district to have already started the preparation and not just wait for the ball to drop. So, and then I attended Board Officer Academy and got my refreshers again on sunshine law. Be reminded, parliamentary procedure. We don't go really down into the, just some good information to refresh. So I really appreciate the professional development that are afforded, and I think that it just makes us a better board to be able to participate in these. Gives us the insight of what we need to do to be able to start the work, the efforts that at the CUBE conference, and then I'm done. But at the CUBE conference, I wanted to know, there was a session about how to gauge student voice on the board. I wanted to see, like, what is that supposed to mean? And unfortunately, the presenters are doing it from a policy standpoint, like have a policy to have student board reps. And I'm like, hey, this is, so it was very common. I think we all had the same commentary that, yeah, we already do that, or you didn't know you're supposed to do that, or why are we even talking about? There's a lot of that happens. So it does make us very proud of who we are and helps us to really realize how unique we are. Dr. Brahandel for.
Madam President, may I just ask us as a full board and administration to keep our eyes and ears open after January 20th and to start putting our focus on Project 2025 and how it may affect public education. The conferences that I attended, it is a focal point and people are starting to discuss it in session.
I'll just share, I'm one of 30 superintendents across the nation that's on the AASA advocacy group, and we have weekly calls, and that is the topic. The other thing is particularly Corey, Mike, and Catherine have already started to look at the immigration factors and what we need to do and what we can do as a public school, and how we just support our families through understanding the change. Because regardless of what's coming, change is happening. We have to help people understand what they can do, what their rights are, where their supports are, and where their resources are. And we are well aware that our families look to us as a trusted entity, and we hold that dear to our hearts. And so we must provide them resources and anything we can do just to help them through this changing time.
So with that being said, we're at item 13. 13.1, I just need a recommended motion to adjourn.
Madam President, with no further business, I move to adjourn the Board of Education meeting.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Williams to adjourn the Board of Education board meeting. Second by Ms. Janice Frazier. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned, and Merry Christmas to.
Yes. Oh, yeah, Robert.